Hey everyone!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of RVing with Joe. I really appreciate you coming along for the ride here, and hopefully you can subscribe to this channel or like this video. Today we're going to talk about should we buy an RV or not. That's really where you got to start with when you're thinking about RVing is, are you even going to get an RV? And what are the reasons why you should or shouldn't? Now, there could be an hour or two worth of content on all the considerations, but I wanted to give a general quick run through on the basics of what you might want to consider if you're thinking of going into buying an RV. Buying an RV doesn't always come down to whether or not this is the perfect financial decision or the wisest decision. It's often a personal decision. Think of it as a hobby or something you want to do that you put money into. If you're into scuba diving, you're probably spending a bunch of money on scuba gear. If you're into hang gliding, well, then you're spending all this money on hang gliding gear. Maybe you're into getting a boat. Well, you know what they say about a boat? A boat is just a big hole that you throw money into. An RV isn't much different. An RV is a depreciating asset. You're going to spend money that some folks will spend on a small home sometimes, and yet it's a depreciating asset. A home and real estate will over time grow in value. It's an investment. And for most RVs, it's not an investment. It's something you're buying that you're going to consume over time. And eventually it's not going to be worth that much money. So you got to know what you're getting into financially and be in the right place to make that kind of decision. Look, I'm not going to harp on it here, but you need to make sure that you got your debt in order before you go and buy a trailer. I'm not saying you need to have zero debt. I'm just saying you need to be able to manage your debt, manage your loads, look at the total cost of the debt you have, not just your monthly payments. And if you feel like you have it under control and you have room, well, it's something you might want to look into. Bear in mind, there are going to be a lot of additional costs, not just a purchase price of an RV. You've got storage costs, you've got repair costs, insurance. You need to outfit the RV. It's like getting an additional small apartment when it comes to buying sheets and towels and silverware and plates and all of the things you need to live on the road. So make sure you get your budget in order. If you don't have a budget in order, again, I'm not going to preach here, but you probably want to have it written down somewhere, how much money you're spending and how much money you expect to spend. And then you want to work into that model. Well, how much is it going to cost if I add all those elements I just talked about, plus the purchase price? If I add all of that in and I had that out in my budget for the next year, would I still be able to afford everything? And you have to afford the additional gas and camping expenses that come along with having an RV. There's no use in having an RV that you can just barely afford and not be able to afford to take it out. We all know gas prices are through the roof. So for most people, that's a huge consideration right now. So let's just say you got all your money together, you're ready to roll forward with getting into RVing a little further. One of the things you might want to look at is finding a friend with a trailer or an RV that goes out camping, where you can either go with them or borrow their RV, or you can rent an RV. It's not exactly cheap to rent an RV, but often if you do it with a pair of couples or something like that, you can spread out the costs, and it's not so bad for an extended weekend if you don't go too far and the miles don't add up. So think about renting an RV and just getting your first taste of what it's like to be out there and be on the road. That might end the decision right there for you when you come across some aspect you just weren't thinking about. But let's say you've tasted the lifestyle, you've gone out there and researched, you realize you really want to get into RVing, so you want to go buy an RV. Well, regardless of whether you're going to buy a motorhome or a trailer, I strongly urge you to think about getting a used RV first. There's a few different reasons for this. Number one, there's less financial risk. They're easier to attain. Number two, you're probably going to make mistakes. I know I made a lot of mistakes on my first RVs, and when you make those mistakes or learn a lesson or two, it's usually because something broke or something needs to be replaced now, and you really want that happening on a used RV a bit more than a brand new RV that you're out there just breaking and bumping into poles and gas pumps. Might want to get the hang of the lifestyle before you invest in a brand new one. And also keep in mind that maintenance is a big part of owning an RV. Maintenance is time consuming. You need to be handy with tools and know a little bit about AC and DC electricity. You need to be able to use a multimeter and bring along your tools to maybe fix something that's gone wrong. It's not the same thing as driving a car where you just take it to the mechanic and it's black and white. You're often fixing these things for yourself. If you need to take your RV in for maintenance, there's usually weeks and weeks of wait. So you can't be stuck somewhere near a campsite just because something broke. You're probably going to have to fix it, patch it, or somehow get it working so you can limp home and then get it fixed by a professional. So if you're not the kind of person who's ready to crawl under an RV and get a little dirty, you might want to think twice about this lifestyle. Another thing to consider is where are you going to store it? Not all communities, towns allow you to keep an RV even on your own property. Sometimes there's laws about how far set back from the sidewalk it needs to be, limits on length, limits on time of the year that you can have your RV in your driveway or in front of your home. There's almost always a 3-day street parking limit. And in big cities, there can be a 2-hour limit, or in some towns like Santa Fe, California, you're just literally not allowed to park an RV trailer on the street anywhere at any time. That's that. I've heard of multiple horror stories over the years of someone who's a homeowner, who's got an RV pad, who has everything set up. They go out, they buy their dream RV, their $200,000 bus of an RV. They bring it home, they pull it into their pad, and the next day they get a write-up saying, you can't do that here. It's against the bylaws. It's against the HOA. It's against the strata rules. Wherever it is that you live, there's can be rules against this. So make sure you do your research. A lot of times, even if you see them in your neighborhood, it doesn't mean that it's legal. It just means no one has complained yet. Something that some people might want to consider is how open they are to the social aspect of RVing. Sometimes when you're RVing, you're very close to your neighbors at various campsites. There can be different political leanings or sort of differences in cultural differences between different parts of the different countries. So if you're in the deep south versus, deep in a hippie commune area of California, you can get very different experiences. And so if you're going to travel around, you're going to be exposed likely to the mirror image of whatever your leanings are. So you need to be comfortable with that. You also need to be able to rub elbows with, hardworking blue collar folk of America. And in Canada, the RVing community tends to be a little bit more made up of the folks who get out there and work hard in life and get out there and try to enjoy the outdoors. And I'm not trying to draw too many stereotypes here, but in general, you just need to be open-minded in both directions. So if you're a hardcore right-winger, you better get ready if you're going to some California camping site where they're going to be banging bongo drums and smoking weed till 3 a.m. And the flip side, if you're some long-haired hippie from California and you're going to go into the deep south, know what you're getting into. It's just the realities of the 21st century. I found myself, and I kind of have the privilege and the condition to just exist in all those environments pretty seamlessly. So it's important to just relax and know that people are people, and you're going to have to interact with them if you're an RVer. It's very hard to be a hermit and travel the open road. You can do it, but you're going to be hanging out on the back of a lot of truck stops and rest areas to pull that off. So one last tip I would have is if you've never driven a very large vehicle or towed a trailer, depending on what kind of RV you're looking for, you might want to think about just spending the day renting a Uhaul and driving it around a parking lot. If you're thinking of getting a trailer, go rent the longest trailer you can get at Uhaul or whatever matches up, if you can, in length with what you're buying, and then just go drive around a parking lot, throw out some cones, learn how to back up. Get the feel for it. Also, if you're going to be getting a big RV and you haven't driven a lot of large vehicles, go rent a big empty U-Haul. They don't cost a lot if you don't drive them a lot of miles, so you can just drive around the area that you rent it and just spend a few hours getting used to driving a large vehicle. The first day you're out with your new RV, it's going to be real scary if you haven't done it before. And so you want to be a little prepared. You want to make sure your tank is full before you pick up your trailer. And you want to just feel comfortable getting out there and driving on the open road with this really large vehicle. Sometimes you're driving a load that can be 12,000, 14,000, 16,000 collective pounds of weight barreling down the road at 70 miles an hour. You better be comfortable with driving this type of rig. So maybe try it out with some empty U-Haul vehicles and trailers until you feel like you're comfortable driving the real deal. But if you're interested, you still want to do it, do some more research. Don't just listen to some guy named Joe with a YouTube channel. There's a bunch of other people out there with YouTube channels. You can listen to them too. You'll probably hear people with different opinions than mine. Make sure you do a lot of research. Luckily, with the RV community on YouTube and the forums out there on RVnet and other areas, there's just there's a Facebook group for every type of RV and every type of thing out there. Get out there, learn as much as you possibly can before you dive in, and then dive in because it's fun. See you, everybody.